create product or service. Yeah. Click on that, and the name of the product is self-storage rental. So just key that into that field. We get a pop-up window. It should be there. Is everybody there? We good? Okay. Self-storage rental. Now, what did we decide? Is it a product or a service? Service. So move the slider bar to service. So grab the little slider bar, or just click there, and you'll make it a service. Yeah. You won't know whether we're in business or in individual consumer. So we were 70% business. So I just moved the slider bar across to here. That one I need to tell you. Now, we just spent, I don't know, half an hour of the first part of this lecture talking about industry divisions and industry classifications. How many industries were there in Australia? 464 industries. How many divisions? How many divisions? Major divisions? There was 17. Oh, sorry, major subdivisions 17, and major divisions 5. Now, if you click here, industry division, what are we going to classify it as? Just read down here. Which one would we put it under? Transport and storage, that one? Okay, so just use your drop down to select transport and storage. Could you? Yeah. Next, what would you choose here under the that window?
Storage.
Storage. So select storage. The fields here are dependent on what you select in the field above. And what about the industry description right down the bottom? Warehousing, yeah, and cold storage, yeah. Just select that one. Now, by doing that, you've just got a whole bunch of benchmarking data for market size, wages, employees. All the benchmarking data is populated for that industry because there are 464 industries with all the financial results and everything already in this diagnostic tool. Yeah. So a lot of the research that I'm expecting you to do has already been done for you, yes.
So if you were to adjust all the previous...
if you want to click on here to find adult services, go to professional and professional services, and then click on that one, and then you'll find your favourite industry. Yeah? And I'm looking at funeral directors. You'll find that too, very close to religion. Adult services, religion, and that are all together. Anyway, what are we going to click next? Save, absolutely. Click save. Yeah. Otherwise, all that effort is in vain. The other thing I've done is, I don't want you to do this, but that's the way to window between organisations. So say you had green storage and maybe you had another industrial product business and some other business. You could window between organisations by clicking there, and underneath green storage you could have about 3 or 4 different products and services. So you can keep adding multiple products and services. We cool with that? Yep. Then the next thing is, that's up here, the yellow bit is the instruction text that will help you or guide you through the screens. Can you click on the classification part of the tree? Have you got that page up?
Yep.
Yeah. The only other thing I want you to do is, can you see a field there called shopping involvement?
Yes.
I'd put that as unsort, because people don't really seek out storage. So I put that more as an unsort. And although it's a service, I put the involvement as unsort. Remember we did that in the lecture just before? And I ignored the business type of product because it really is a service. I just ignored that one. Click on that. What's the next thing to do? Save. Excellent. Yeah, hit save. All right. Now, let's click on product influence in the tree, which is just below. Click on product influence. Is there a lot of fashion involvement here in the storage industry? Fashion obsolescence, or do you think it's a fashionable industry? No, so I just clicked ignore. Okay? Yeah. So if you do that, are you still with me on this? People got the, yeah. Service differentiation. Is it a commodity with virtually no unique features, or are there lots of different unique features and very, what do you think? Self-storage facility, garage. Lots of unique features, or a commodity? Commodity. So grab the slider bar and move it across to here. It's down this end. Again, when you use the diagnostic, I'm breaking down the decision process that you're making on these things. Doesn't matter whether it's there or there, it's just this way. Just move it this way. Standardisation of service. Is there an industry standard, you think, for these garages, or is it all over the place and rapidly evolving? Very standardised. So I click there. So I move the slider bar across to there. Yeah. Now I'm just going to scroll down. There's a couple more. The service consumption. Is the service produced and consumed at the same time, or can they be done at different times? Can you store goods? Do you have to have the goods in the storage facility consumed? You do, don't you? Yeah? So I said you have to consume it at the same time, storage consumption. Do the customers have to be present inside the storage facility with the goods? No, so they don't have to be there to have the service delivered. So I move the slider bar up there. But I've got to say, there are some unusual people in this world that actually work from storage units. They ask for power into the unit. And if you think of a storage unit, the view is not fantastic. Yeah, it's just 4 walls. Yeah, and some people work inside these storage units. Which are really sad. There are also unusual things that get stored in these storage facilities. The most unusual that I heard of was it was over the US, and a guy had moved to the Philippines, but he used to pay for his storage with his American Express card. And what happened was he'd moved to the Philippines and he was out of contact with American Express. They updated his card and changed the last number on his card. And they didn't tell him. So he's over there in the Philippines, and what happens is the storage unit doesn't get paid. It's like a direct debit on the card, and they don't get paid. So after 30 days, you send them a warning letter or an inquiry letter. 60 days, you send them a warning letter. 90 days, you're allowed to cut the lock and open up and advertise you're having a garage sale, and you can sell the stuff inside to the local community. That's the rules. Do you know what they found in, because they went through the 90 days and they cut the lock, do you know what they found in there? 3 skeletons. Yeah, 3 human skeletons. So the moral to the story is always stay in contact with American Express if you're travelling overseas. So customer demand, the customers, what's this say? Is it wildly fluctuating or is it fairly constant? What would you think? It's really an industry. Do you think it'd be up and down all the time or fairly constant? Fairly constant, yeah. It's not really seasonal or wildly fluctuating. So I just moved the bar across to here. Yeah. And then I hit what?
Save.
Absolutely, hit save. Yeah. Now, can you see a little icon over here, a little chart icon? Yes?
Yep.
Can you see that? Depending on the page that you're on, these chart icons differ. So if it's a financial page, you might have about 10 chart icons. Here you've only got 1 chart icon. I don't know what happens if you click on it because you've populated very little. What happens? You get, yeah? I get something like that because I've populated a lot of different things in this diagnostic. And the one I'm interested in here is service differentiation. Is that good or bad, do you think? Service differentiation.
It says pretty bad at the moment.
It's pretty bad, yeah. It's unfavourable because it's a garage. You can't. It's pretty much a commodity. You can't do much with it. So that's quite an unfavourable influence on the market or the industry. So it just it automatically charts these things, and your chart's not going to look very populated at the moment because you haven't done much to the diagnostic. Okay. Now, what do I write in the business plan? Again, you can just you won't have this in your business plan, but you can click on the business plan tree. Yeah, if you click on that tab there, you'll find it probably down here somewhere. If you click on that, yeah. The business plan will also have a tree, which is going to follow very much the diagnostic tree, and it's also going to follow the lectures too. So a new tree is generated, and if you clicked on description, yeah, what you're going to see is you'll see the instructions. They're always in yellow at the top of what you have to do. Then you see a second set of instructions, this grey set. Can you see those? You've got the instructions there. Oh, by the way, if you use IE9, you won't see anything else. We've just got to fix that. If you're using Mozilla, fine. Firefox is fine. What are the other? Safari's good. Yeah, it's just IE9 that's which got fixed. But the rest of it's fine. What's the Google one? Chrome's fine. So you'll see. Can you see these instructions here? Now these instructions are dynamic and they change depending on what you're selecting in the diagnostic. So as you're going through, if you've selected a service business, automatically it's knocked out all the product questions. Yeah. If you select, as you go through and select more things, this dynamically changes, so it's tailoring your business plan for you. And down here is the text editor. Yeah. So that field there, you can start typing things in, the business plan about the self-storage facility. It will take charts, it'll take tables, pictures, it'll take 16 meg. The field's 16 meg of things. Yeah? If suddenly you think, I can't type any more, you've blown the 16 meg limit, but I tell you what, I've been doing this for a while and I never sort of reached that 16 meg limit. But you can hold pretty much anything in there. And we've just put the toolbar together. If you want some more tools, hit the feedback button up there and ask for some more tools and we'll put them in for you. They're usually the tools I use. Now, again, you don't need to do this, but to complete this part of the business plan section, if you hit complete and save, it'll turn that into 100%. So you know you can signal to your team where you are in the business plan. Also, you can ignore sections because this is a general business planning tool. If you think that this whole section's irrelevant, you just ignore it and fail because this one's not irrelevant yet. But you can ignore it and then hit save. So I know that's hard to read, but what I'm going to do is that's the screen and you can scroll down in the field to have a look at the text. What I'm going to do is I'll blow that up and then I'll blow this up so you can see what I'm writing in the business plan about self-storage. So the first thing, see that's the blue box here and then the green box. So the blue box says, describe the product or service and its applications. Put some photographs in, and in this section, photographs are really important. And if you've got any unique features. So what do I write about it? Well, self-storage is a garage in a secure place accessed by a customer. There's about 7 standard sizes of self-storage units. The smaller units are more for the residential customers. The larger units are more for the commercial customers. What else did I write about there? The width and depth is important. The popular sizes are 1.5 metres by 3 metres and 3 by 3 metres for the residential market, and the bigger ones for the commercial market, because they store bulky sort of equipment in the bigger ones. They're almost like small industrial units. These small ones are also important for near the CBD or the apartment dwellers. And green storage, we have the widest range, up to 8 by 6 metre security controlled drive-up access storage units. You saw a little chart there. I copied and pasted a chart into the tool. That gives you a distribution curve. The 3 by 3s are the most popular storage units. The 1.5 by 3 is probably the second most. And you can see there's the pinks are the residential customers, the greens are the commercial customers. They like the bigger storage units. So it gives you an idea of the size range. So I'm trying to paint a picture of what the product is. The next part of the business plan tool, I clicked on service features here, and it just asked me this question here. So I put in a table and a photograph and some text into the field. So let's have a look at that. I'll blow that up and then I'll blow up my response. It asks for complete a product features table. All I did was I put the greens, that's the Artarmon facility, that's codenamed for Storage King, which is the market leader. Orange Storage is codenamed for Miller's, which got bought by Kennards. Blue Storage is codenamed for Kennards. And I just put in the major features, so drive-up access, wide size range, closed circuit TV and pin security, so the security aspects, 24 by 7 access, record storage, and we, at Green Storage, we had most of those things covered except for record storage, whereas the other facilities had some issues. So you put together a little features table, and then I talked about drive-up access. When you saw most storage facilities in Australia, they had a loading dock, then you have to move all your goods onto a trolley truck or a hand luggage truck and then take it to the storage unit. We allowed drive-up access, particularly for large trucks, to get access to the storage unit, so stop double handling. I put in a picture of the storage unit where you could almost do a U-turn with your car if you're clever and drive right up to your storage unit. Who was that important for, do you think? The fact that you could drive through our facility and go right up to your unit. The guy moving the bodies, yeah, there was some privacy issues there, absolutely. The CCTV knocked that one around though. Sorry? Older people, yeah, because they can drive to it and they don't have to double handle. Who's doing most of the moving here? Is there a professional services firm set up to do most of the moving of all this furniture and boxes?
House moving
Who was it?
services?
What?
House moving people?
House moving people, removalists, absolutely. 2 men in a truck. They loved this facility. The reason is, if you've got a car there, you could, if you're clever, get a truck around the car. Now, the removalists, what that meant to a removalist was, usually they got into these facilities and then they got trapped. Somebody had parked their car there and they're moving into a unit. They got trapped and they got stuck. If they could get around the car, then they could get 1 or 2 extra jobs a day in, which was important for their revenue line. So we marketed the fact that we had wide driveways and also undercover storage to the removalist community because it was important to them. We also had security too, so we had protection against fire and water damage, protection against theft, and also it felt pretty safe. The facilities were wide, very well lit. It felt safe inside these facilities. So we provided access control, a 24/7 access through a keypad. You just drive up to the facility, dial in your number, and it would open the door for you. Each of the units had individual alarms, which were controlled from that central keypad. We had intercoms and CCTV everywhere. And then I put in a couple of pictures. There's your keypad, dial in, drive into the facility there, and we had everything monitored and digitally watermarked. So a picture's worth 1,000 words here. So that gives you a bit of an idea of what we write in the business plan. Okay, if you've got your PCs up, you can put them on sleep now for a little bit. Yep.
Does every member have to do that?
For the case study, I'm going to get you to do individual sections. I'll release the case study probably, I was aiming for tonight, probably tomorrow. I'll send you all an email with a PDF of the case study. And don't do all the sections, I'll tell you exactly which sections to do. Don't make work yourself. But in the business plan, you have to fill out a lot of those sections, but split it up into 3. So some of you do this, and that's why I've got the navigation set up, so it makes it easy for the team to communicate. No. Yeah, one person puts together an organisation, and then everyone's got it. Yeah, once you set it up once, everybody's got it. Cool. Yeah. Any other questions on it? Yeah. Now, I've printed out those screens in the book, but what I'm doing, and hopefully by next lecture, I'm going to narrate a tutorial and use a different company. Created, I think for the bridge testing business, create a tutorial and put that up online under the training section so you can get access to that. So it'll be narrated to help you. So you can see the business planning screens for that. So, right, we're up to product adoption, which is the second section of this task. Now, so I've talked a bit about this product life cycle curve, or service life cycle curve. That curve is either volume of product or it's mainly revenue. How revenue for an industry increases as time goes by. And it starts at the introductory phase of the life cycle. Then you go through this massive exponential growth, if you like. About here is consolidation, that's another phase, and then maturity, and then finally decline. It takes about 5 years. How many industries have we got? 464. It takes about 5 years to establish a new product category or a new industry. So there's a lot involved on getting an industry from introduction through to growth. And then it takes a further 5 years before explosive growth happens. So you're really, if you're trying to get a new product or service into the market, There's about a 10-year long haul where you can start. What dictates this curve shape, do you think? How quickly the product will get into market? Any ideas? Marketing? Marketing's got something to do with it. That it's mainly investment to push it along and get it out into the market. It's dictated by the type of customer. What is that curve anyway? A bell curve or a normal distribution curve. One standard deviation either side is 34% of the customers. Out here, the outliers, 2.5% of the customers. Now these outliers are called innovators. They then pass it to the early adopters, and then the majority of us pick up the product here. So that red curve is what we call the product adoption curve. The product life cycle curve that I've been showing you is the cumulative curve of that. As you add this together, that cumulative curve is the product life cycle curve. And that's the yellow curve that I've been showing you. So that's what dictates the shape of the curve. Now, how quickly the thing gets into market is, does the product have a big advantage over what it's superseding? Usually there's an existing technology in the market, something new's come in, is it a big advantage? Is it compatible with the customer's existing environment? Do they have to change? Is it easy to understand or is it complex? Is it easy to trial or is that difficult? And are the results observable? So one of the quickest products into market was that. The black and white television. It was introduced in 1947 and got to about 10% of the households in 3 years. So it quickly got into the growth phase, broke all the rules. And then 90% of the households, so it went in that customer adoption curve, it went to 90% of the households within about 13 years. So it was very quick in the market. Why? Don't worry about the Olympics. Don't worry about the Olympics. No. Why was it so quick into market? Let's go through. Relative advantage. What technology is it superseding?
Radio.
Radio. Has it got a high relative advantage over the radio?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's got a visual rather than auditory component. Complexity. Is it complex to understand?
No.
Not really. You don't even have a remote with it. You just turn it on. There's 2 knobs. Yeah. So it's very simple to understand. So big tick on that. Is it compatible with the home?
Yes.
Why?
Plug and play pretty much.
Yeah, replaces it. Is it a demanding piece of furniture? You just put it in the corner, don't you? Yeah. So it's quite compatible. You don't have to alter your home. So relative advantage over the radio. Let's go through these. It's very high. Yes, it's compatible with the home. That's high. It's easy to understand. Is it trialable? Can you see can you see it demonstrated easily? Yes. Absolutely. So very, very high there. And it provides you with hours of entertainment, so observable results, yes, high. In fact, TV, when it was first released, had a few issues. They were trying, it wasn't the product that was the issue, it was the services or the soft part of the product that was the issue. And it was nearly going to die. What rescued it was a certain sort of show. Does anybody know what show rescued television? Blankety Blanks? No, that was Graham Kennedy. That's a long way. What? Music didn't? Sorry? What?
The Goons?
The Goons? No, that was radio.
Yeah, didn't they go to later on?
Oh, they might have. Yeah. The news was one, but it was the cop shows. Homicide and all the police shows that rescued it because it was dying, and they needed software, if you like, or the soft services content to really boost that. A killer app. The killer app could save television for all the murders, crime shows. Here's the PC, released in '82. 22 years later, it was much slower. It got to 50% of that life cycle curve, and then by 2008. In about 6 years, it jumped to another 30%. What made it jump so quickly in after 2002? The internet, absolutely, the internet. Why so slow for the PC? What? It's complex, yeah. That's not using Windows. The PCs were released with MS-DOS, Microsoft DOS, and it was always breaking down. It was very buggy. You had to reboot all the time. PCs did not talk to each other. If you took that floppy out of a Unisys PC and put it into an IBM PC, they would not talk to each other. You couldn't use the same floppy. So very complex piece of equipment. Relative advantage. Does it have any advantages for the home?
In the early days, no.
No, in the early days, no. You really couldn't play very much in the way of games on this. If you're an accountant or running a business, maybe it's got some advantage, but relative advantage quite small. Once the internet came in, that's when you had a relative advantage. You could access the internet. How about compatibility with the home? Where do these things go? It's a desktop machine on a desk, so is that compatible with the home? Normally, where are they in a home? Do you need a separate room? A study or something like that, an area? So it's not like a TV, you can just plonk a TV in. Back then when you had desktop machines, you pretty well needed a study or an office or somewhere to stick it. So on these things, the relative advantage, I guess, until the internet was born, it was quite unclear, so low. Compatible with the home, you tended to need a separate study, and it was very difficult to use, so it failed on a number of dimensions, that's why it was so slow in the market. So let's have a quick look at these customers out here at 3 and 2 standard deviations away from the norm. The innovators are very radical. They love new, unproven technology. They're always eager to try new things. They're usually high wealth, high discretionary income people. The early adopters are the opinion leaders or the visionaries. If you're trying to get a business application into the market or an accounting application, a visionary you talk to is David Koch. On the morning show, he'd be an opinion leader or an early adopter, if you like. The early majority buys stuff that is standardised and stuff aimed at the mass market. Usually these visionaries sell the product to the early majority. That's how it gets into the market. So the digital camera, released in '88. And then 80% of the households had them about 20 years later. So quite a quick product into the market. Let's have a go. Does it have any relative advantage over a film camera? What's the advantage? It's what, sorry? You can see it straight away. You know whether you're taking a good picture or not. You don't have to go and get it processed. So speed, what else? More photos, more storage. You can keep clicking. Anything else? How about the cost? Yeah, you can. It's virtually free, isn't it, versus film processing, which is expensive. So it had a real advantage over these film processing cameras. Is it compatible with the user? Yeah. Absolutely, very user-friendly. I mean, when a Japanese tourist approaches me in Circular Quay, I no longer run in fear. I can pick up that camera and know how to zoom it. It's very easy to work and click it. So very, very compatible and lighter to use, smaller. Is it complex? Very easy to use. Trialable? Easy to trial and observable results. It actually makes poor photographers good photographers. So it's expanded the market as well. You get the instant image to check. So what it's done is it's made it easy for these early adopters that adopted the camera to go and on-sell it to the people that buy the standardised product, the early majority. So these become the salespeople, if you like, the customers that have bought it early, then find it easy to sell, and that's how it got into market quickly. The late majority and the laggards are the people down here that are very risk averse. Most of them work for UTS, and they want heavy discounts, so I'm not going to talk about that much. Now, the curve's not clean. There's a chasm that exists between about 2 standard deviations and 1 standard deviation. There's a bit of a gap here because these early adopters are quite independent, motivated people. They're thought leaders. These early majorities are very analytical and conformist. So there's a gap because the personality types are quite different between them. That's where most of the early entrants into the market go broke at that stage in the life cycle. So hybrid electric cars, what do you think about these? They were introduced in 2001. Who were the thought leaders or the early adopters that are selling this to us? Who are the thought leaders in the market? Who? Al Gore? Yeah, one. Anybody else? Environmentalists. Who's it been picked up by mainly though, that everybody copies? Famous people, celebrities, yeah. So most of the celebrities are driving them, and that's hasn't made it across the chasm yet. No, hasn't got there. What's holding it back? Let's have a think about it. Has it got a relative advantage? Why not? I agree with you, but why not?
Not really that much more fuel efficient than a normal car.
Why? If you look at the total cost of ownership, what's the problem? The batteries. When you have to replace a battery, they're thousands of dollars, and it's not that much more efficient. Yeah. Is it complex? Who's driven one? Yeah. Is it complex to drive? You know what I hate about it is that damn screen with 4 wheels telling you about how it's all works. Why do we need to know that? Yeah. Why do we need that makes it complex. And the other thing is you put your foot down in the car park and nothing happens. I mean, you go, but you can't hear any noise. That freaks me out too. Sorry? Is it trialable? No, it's on a limited basis. Yeah. Compatibility, it's a car, that hasn't changed much. So that's fine. Limited relative advantage, complex, moderate, trialable, it's fairly easy to test drive. Observable results, limited, I guess. So it hasn't quite got across the chasm yet. Hydrogen cars, we discussed this last lecture. What's the problem with hydrogen? Refueling stations, yeah, that's one thing. Although, it wasn't so long ago that there was no unleaded petrol. Everything had lead in it, and we managed, or the market managed to convince Shell and all of the refineries and the retailers to go and put an unleaded pump in each of the fuel stations. So if this became a good technology, then it wouldn't take long for us to put in a hydrogen pump in all of the fueling stations. But it isn't the fact that it costs a lot to actually make compressed hydrogen in the first place. That's the problem. It's expensive.
Store it for very long.
Can't you? You've got to go off or something, does it? Or
It leaks out.
it leaks. Yeah. What happens when you have a collision? Is there still a problem?
Apparently not anymore.
Because it's compressed, isn't it? It's not actually gas. It's compressed.
Yeah, it's
Isn't it?
liquefied.
It's liquefied.
Well, that's about short range.
So there are still problems with that technology. So I guess when you're inventing stuff like that, or six-finger glove, or most early entrants choose the wrong design, which is a problem. And the problem is the customer. The customer is evolving as your product's evolving. So very few companies that pick the winning design. The case studies I'm going to use are Microsoft and these other big companies. They pick the winning design right at the right at the start. But very few times does that occur. Most of them go broke. For every one that I give you as a case study, I can give you 1,000 case studies where they go broke. So it's very difficult to pick the right design. So early entrants almost never become the market leaders. In the auto industry, back in 1885, there were 1,000 firms in the US auto industry, and now there are 3. Are they still 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still going? Yeah. When the TV industry started up, there were 89 manufacturers in the US television industry. Now there are none. So it's very difficult to pick the right design and ride up to the position of market leadership. The other thing that's going on with the life cycle curve is it's getting smaller. Yeah. Radio, the period it took to reach 50 million users was 38 years. TV, the period was 13 years, as we just discussed before. The internet was 4 years. iPod, 3 years. Facebook, 2 years. Yeah. So it's the life cycle curve is speeding up and they're becoming far more frequent. That's why large corporations are outsourcing their IP and they're manufacturing to small corporations to keep up with this rapid increase. So let's have a look at this product life cycle curve. What happens is you start off and there's a proliferation of products because the customer's evolving and the product's evolving at the same time. So everybody's trying to invent different services and features and bits of the product. Eventually, what happens is that stops, and you go up to the growth phase of the curve, and the product becomes far more standardised. So the customers become standardised, the market gets calibrated, and the product becomes standardised. Services tend to not become as standardised as products. Products usually go from a proliferation of products through to one or two standard designs. At this stage, what most companies do is start to expand their product range to fill up all the little niche segments and put in new sizes and new colours into their product range. Now, as we go a bit further up, we get to consolidation. What happens is most companies will start to look at all the substitute technologies, other technologies that can wipe out your product, and start patenting those. So it's starting to protect their intellectual property at the consolidation phase. At maturity, companies then rationalise their product range, get rid of all the small niche markets, and rationalise it to one or two standard products. And then in decline, you rationalise the product range to get rid of all the unprofitable bits. So sometimes you can standardise, other times you can customise. Services tend to customise, whereas products tend to standardise. You come up with one industry standard here, whereas services remain quite fragmented and variable because that's dependent on people. That's not. That's dependent on really machinery and the manufacturing process. So customisation, like in snowflakes, are all customised. Let's have a look at customisation first. Services don't tend to standardise, and the reason is if you show up to an operating theatre and you've got heart problems or something, they're going to be quite different to the next person showing up with heart problems. So services tend to be very variable and customised. If you're booking a trip travelling overseas, you'll book a tailor-made itinerary with a travel agent. So these services tend to be quite tailor-made. What service companies are trying to do is standardise their building blocks and then assemble building blocks. So if you're travelling overseas, they'll assemble packages, one for maybe India, another one for Europe, and another one for Africa, and build a tailor-made service out of standardised building blocks. So you can still make money both ways. If you're standard and you just produce your vanilla flavour standard product, you can achieve economies of scale and reduce your costs and sell it for a lot less. If you're very tailor-made, there are virtually no economies of scale as in a service business, but you can still charge a lot for it. Let's have a look at standardisation. For services, what they're trying to do is identify the workflow of delivering services, identify what they can automate, and then standardise those building blocks. For instance, a car wash, you can go and get your car washed by hand, but that's quite variable and that's customised, or you can put it through a machine and get it washed that way. And usually the cost of the machine and the time is going to be a lot quicker and cheaper. What products have become standardised over the years, you think of? What's standardised that you know how to use? You can virtually pick it up and use it. What? Phones, absolutely. Mobile phones. Anybody can use either one of those or a mobile phone. Very standard, absolutely. If somebody came out with radically different buttons, would you use it? No, it would be unfriendly. Yeah, so phones are definitely standard. Anything else? Keyboards. Keyboards, QWERTY keyboards. If you had a keyboard that was laid out A, B, C, D, could you use it? Difficult, yeah. So QWERTY keyboards are all standardised. Let me give you a few. The VHS, the video recorder, was standardised. It evolved. There were a few different standards. They settled on the VHS. Chips are standardised. These things, as I said, I can use these things in circular key now because they're standard. I know where the buttons are. These things are standardised. The PC. Yeah. Car radios in the olden days, they always had two knobs. You knew what they did. One was for tuning, one was for on-off. And then you had the presets in the middle, standardised. Those things, you can pick up a remote, can't you, anywhere, because it's got one of those things in the middle and you know how to use it. Yeah? All standardised. Yeah? So let's do a case study. In '76, Wozniak was a dropout. Remember, they drop out, these entrepreneurs. Steve Wozniak was a dropout from the University of California, Berkeley. He met Steve Jobs, who also dropped out from Reed College, Portland. And they met together while they were working in HP. One actually went to Atari and the other one stayed in HP. Wozniak sold his scientific calculator and Jobs sold his VW combi van. And I lied, I said they did it for $1,000. I was wrong. They did it for $1,300. That's the money that they raised to get what company going? Apple. Yeah. Wozniak was a technical whiz. Which one's Wozniak? Doesn't he look like one? Yeah. Anyway, they got $1,300 together and developed the Apple I. They took it to HP and Atari, who were their employers at the time. Both turned them down. You want to know what it looked like? There it is. That's the Apple I. Yeah. Didn't actually have a screen, or it had sort of an integrated circuit board with a keyboard. Didn't have all the other bits and pieces with it. Yeah. So they got turned down. They made 200 of them, sold them for about $600 or $700, and were able to survive through that introductory phase. There's the Apple II. They then went to a guy called Mike Makula, and they got $250,000 to build the Apple II. It had a revolutionary colour screen. It had some storage device. The storage device was a cassette drive, and you're able to play games on it. So Wozniak did a good job on the Apple II. They sold enough of them, 10,000 of them, to quit their day jobs in 1980. But again, it wasn't the product that drove them. It was, what was that called? VisiCalc. It was the killer app. The VisiCalc went out through the PCs and also the Apple Mac, and that was the thing that drove the Apple Mac, or the Apple II into the market. So that killer app was the thing that got them established. Did they invent Windows? Did Apple come and invent the GUI interface in Windows? Because that's what it was like before the Windows interface.
Yeah.
Xerox did? Absolutely correct. Yeah, what does Xerox do? What do they do? Photocopiers, yeah. Xerox had this thing called the Palo Alto Research Center, the Park Institute. In '79, Jobs got a group of Apple engineers into the Park Institute. They bartered their way in by selling $1 million worth of discounted Apple stocks to Xerox. And they had a brief tour through the Institute. They saw that, which was the writing looked like it was writing on a page, and it had windows, windowing sort of facilities. The Xerox were too dumb to know what they had, but when Jobs saw it, they said, right, let's take that idea away and copy it. So they came out with a similar interface, with a graphical user interface. They put it into an overpriced Lisa machine, which was before the Apple Mac. It was a commercial disaster, and the Jobs didn't sell anything. What they had to do was wait until that, which was again a killer app PageMaker, which turned the text that you saw on the screen into something that you can print. And when that application came through, that they put that through on the Macintosh, and that's when they started to take off. So they had to wait until HP released a laser printer and for PageMaker to release their publishing package. Wozniak, who was the guru, lost interest and became a computer teacher, but he held on to a few Apple stocks. Jobs made a mistake. He specified that the Mac cannot be upgraded. It should not be upgradable. Why interfere with perfection? That's what he said. So he didn't want that machine to be upgraded. Macintosh could have set the standard, the industry standard for the market, but it didn't, unfortunately. And it was very hard to develop applications for this machine. You had to be a part of the Apple Certified Developer Program. Are they still making the same mistakes?
Yes.
Yeah, are they? Is it easy to become a developer for what's it, the iPad?
It's $99.
It's hard to make, but you only make very little, don't you?
I think they take 30% to be profit.
Do they?
And they charge you something like $100 a year to sign up.
Yeah. But so do you think they've learned?
They're learning.
Learning, yeah. The other problem was they said, why interfere with perfection? While they were trying to set a standard that was not upgradable, the IBM PC was evolving, not by IBM, but all the clones and the copies were increasing the speed and the power of the IBM PC while that was staying still. They got a guy called John Scully in from Pepsi, who was the CEO from Pepsi, to take over, and Jobs went to chairman of the board in 1995. Jobs had a very innovative company. It was very radical. There wasn't a lot of bureaucracy there. What Scully did was bring in more bureaucracy and more management into the company. Was that a good thing for Apple? It started to knock its innovation capabilities around. Macintosh had 20% of the PC market in '87. They could have set the industry standard, but they didn't. What happened was IBM set the standard. They made all of their designs accessible to the IBM clone manufacturers, the ones in Singapore and Taiwan, and they also made their applications very easy to be created and inputted through the IBM PC. So that was continually evolving, and the IBM set the industry standard. Macintosh then gained, Microsoft then gained ground. They set the standard. They turned PCs into a commodity. Apple maintained a position of being richly engineered and a high-priced product. Apple also was very proprietary. It did not set an industry standard. It jealously guarded the secrets inside the Apple box. In order to open up an Apple Mac, you needed an Apple cracker. You want to see what an Apple cracker looks like? That. Are they still doing it? Can you open up an iPod or an iPad without wrecking it? Yeah? You need special tools, an iPod cracker, to open up your iPod. And you can only get them through Apple distributors. So they're not like that. Can you buy them now? That's the problem, isn't it? When the battery goes, you have to go back and you get them to do it. But you can do it now, yeah? Are they learning?
No, that's all aftermarket stuff.
That's what?
It's not done by Apple, that's done by other people. It's an aftermarket.
Oh, an aftermarket. Yeah. All right. I think they've learned some lessons, but some lessons they haven't. Anyway, I guess they were always innovative. That was their competitive advantage against IBM and Microsoft. Scully, unfortunately, from Pepsi, surrounded all of these innovators with a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of professional managers, and they lost innovation as a competitive advantage. They released a PowerBook laptop in '91, and it kept catching fire, so they had quality problems. They then released, who got the standard for that? They released the Apple Newton. You know, the Apple falls on your head, that's called the Apple Newton. Who got the standard? Palm. Yeah, the palm. Yeah, what they were hung up on in Apple was handwriting recognition. Who uses handwriting recognition on one of those things? Nobody. Yeah. So all you want is your customer contacts on that, a calendar system, and a phone. So Palm set the standard there. Apple lost market share. How much did they have? 20%. What have they got now? 4, and they lost $1 billion that year. So that's what happened to Apple. They didn't hit the industry standard. They started to decline. They made multiple attempts to upgrade the operating system for the Mac. I guess what Jobs did was he exited the company and built this thing called the Next operating system. They went and got Jobs back and also got the Next operating system back and put that into the Mac. What did Jobs then do when he came back? He what? Not quite. Did you remember those? He released the iMac, which was basically the old Apple Mac with a new operating system and a candy-coloured translucent box. So who did that appeal to?
Consumers.
All the graphic designers, the arts industry, the music industry. So he turned a commodity PC into a designer sort of PC. It worked. He sold 800,000 units that year, and he turned the profit from $1 billion loss into $600 million in a year. So he turned the thing around. As I said, it was not technologically new, it was just repackaged and made it look like a fashion statement. Then he released the portable iBook and a Power Mac with flat panels, screen panels and DVD burners, so he listened to the customers. Did he invent that, the MP3 player?
No.
No. Iger Labs invented the MP3 player. He came into the market 3 years later, but then, has he got the industry standard for that?
Yes.
Absolutely. He got 71% of that market. That was back in 2008. So who should have got the industry standard there? Who had the technology before the iPod or the MP3 Walkman? Sony with the Walkman, that portable cassette. Did Sony also have the music content?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why did they? Sony is part of this. Sony's part of other. They completely missed the industry standard there. They could have cornered the market, but they missed it. Apple took it instead. He not only released the iPod, which was the product, but did he not follow it up with iTunes, the service? Yeah, so that was the killer app that helped there. And the reason that he was successful was he went to Sony, BMG, EMI, Warner's, and who's the other one? Universal. He went to the major recording labels and he said, I'm impartial and I've got very good peer-to-peer, I've got very good security, digital rights management, and he managed to talk them all into giving him access to their songs. So he was the neutral body and that was his success. Anyway, he's got a catalogue of about 8 million songs and he's the #1 music distributor in the US. He was always bad at retail. Have you seen these stores around now? He's set up, he's not only product and service now, but he's got his distribution as well. He's got his retail stores as well. So he moved into that. He redefined the company as a consumer electronics, released the iPhone in 2007, then the iPad in 2010 to capitalise on the convergence of computers and media and TV. But he also released these stores as well. I guess, I mean, he's dead, but he was worth 5.5 billion. He was the largest shareholder in Disney, more than even the Disney family. How he got that was he got Pixar Animation Studios off a guy called George Lucas, who did Star Wars. And George was getting divorced. He didn't want his Star Wars franchise going to his wife, so he had to raise money in a hurry. He got about $10 million off Jobs to pay his wife out. And then Jobs took Pixar and released Toy Story, and its history after that. Remember the Techo that went back to being a teacher? He still holds a few Apple stocks worth more than $100 million. Techo being a teacher sometimes. Boot your machines up again. We'll do quickly the diagnostic. Just let me know when you're ready.
Stop.
This won't take long.
Stop.
Are your machines alive? Your machine's okay? Yep. If you select, again, that green storage thing, the diagnostic and then service adoption, product service adoption in the tree, is it easy to trial self-storage or is that quite difficult? Very easy. So just move the slider bar across there. Very easy to trial it. Is it compatible with the existing environment or do you need a lot of training or retraining to go to use self-storage? Is it very compatible? Yeah, so move the slider bar along to here. Along there. Is self-storage service very complicated to use or easy? Easy. So move the slider bar across there. The value proposition for self-storage is not a solution looking for a problem, it's a real problem. So I move the slider bar here. And for value add, the results are quite observable. Once you stored something, you've stored it, so it's highly observable. So if you hit save on that, you move your slider bars and hit save. Find a chart that's called product adoption over there. Can you click on that? And you should see that, shouldn't you? What is that saying about self-storage?
Pretty good.
It's very good, very fast uptake, and indeed, self-storage is still in high growth and very quick uptake. So you should have got a chart that looks like that. And yes, let's have a look at the business plan. What did I write? If I clicked on the business plan section and went to service adoption, I've written in that and I've copied the chart into the field. So if I click on service adoption, and let's just blow up what I've written there. What I tend to do when I'm using this tool is I'll pull the diagnostic screen up in one window and the business plan up in another window, and then I can quickly copy and paste charts and copy and paste text and have a look at what I've done in the diagnostics and quickly talk about it. So using multiple windows is probably an advantage here. And I've just said self-storage has a rapid uptake. There's rent-free periods to get you to trial the service. It's easy, simple to understand, solves a problem, and the customer it solves a problem which is significant if you don't have storage space. So what I'm going to do is we'll do value proposition and then we'll call it a day. When you're thinking about a product or a service, engineers tend to think about the product and service and ignore the customer and not think about the customer. What developing a value proposition is all about is thinking about the customer's needs and what problem that you're solving for them. How I tend to think about it is if I look at the time taken before the new technology or the costs that I have to pay before the new technology, and then I look at the time and the costs after I implement the new technology and look at the savings. That's my value proposition or my payback, if you like. The laser was a product that was developed without thinking about the value proposition or how it's going to be used. How's the laser used today? What's some of its applications? For what? Medical applications, for cutting. What else? Printing, yep. Laser printing, yep.
Pointing at aeroplanes.
Pointing at aeroplanes, absolutely. This guy that just got, yep. Cutting, yep. Measuring. Carpenters now just aim at the wall and they can measure the distance. It's got hundreds of applications. So the trick is, instead of just thinking about the product, think about its applications or the problem that it's solving. Vicks was developed by some chemical engineers. The only problem is the cold remedy worked, but it put people to sleep. It made them drowsy. That was developed by some engineers thinking about the product. And they gave it to marketing people. What did they release it as? What sort of product? Sorry, a sleep aid. Yeah, NyQuil. The most successful product Vicks ever released. Take it at night and it'll put you to sleep. Yeah, easy. Yeah? So stop thinking about the product, start thinking about what it's going to do to the customer. Instead of airbags, you talk about the security and the protection that they give. Cordless phones, you talk about the fact that you don't have to, you can walk around, comfort and convenience. Yeah? So think about the benefits to the customer, not just the actual product. When I go run down to buy some drill bits from Bunnings, what am I really buying? Buy what? What am I buying?
Chinese crap.
Yeah, pretty much, but
Freedom from tradies.
freedom for tradies, that's one, but what am I really buying when I'm buying a drill bit?
What a hole in the wall.
The hole. I'm buying the hole. So think about the solution rather than just the product. So we'll finish off on this case study. Call it a day. A while ago, it would have been about 4 or 5 years ago, a research scientist came to me in UTS. He was working over in New South Wales Uni, and he was the inventor of the Sensormatic device. And he licensed it, he patented the technology, licensed it, and made a fair bit of money out of that. Anybody seen those things? That's the Sensormatic device. How does that work?
RFID tags.
It's not an RFID tag. It's a magnetic field. That's got a magnetic field in it, and when you have a tag that goes through it, it disturbs the field and sets off the alarm. So, right?
Those things were unreliable magnetic ones.
But, were they? What are they replacing with now?
RFID.
RFID. Okay. All right. So what this guy then did was invent an RFID tag. It's called a surface acoustic wave RF tag. Yeah. I guess it works in the UHF, the ultra high frequency range. And this little tag, what happens is a sound wave, the UHF sound wave will be transmitted from a transmitter, and it's called a transceiver because if the chip's there, the little tag, it'll disturb that sound wave and then send it back to the transmitter, which is also a receiver. So So the transceiver sends out the signal, it gets disturbed and altered, so it sets up a little sine wave. As it travels along the chip, it gets altered into a different sort of sine wave and then comes back again. The chip's made out of a piezoelectric material. You don't need a power source. The actual power source for it is the sound wave itself. So it gets disturbed, it's picked up by the transmitter, and once you've etched a pattern on the chip, you can't alter the chip, so it's almost like a barcode. You're reading a barcode. Yeah? Now, the chip itself was small. It cost about 25 cents to make, lightweight, half a gram. You could transmit with the receiver about 6 meters, which is probably from 6 big steps to the wall and back. Yeah? So if the chip's within 6 meters of this transceiver, it could pick up the chip's barcode. Didn't require any batteries, it's passive, very small, unique. Once the chip's etched, you can't change it. You can have it sit in alkaline acid. It's quite resistant to solvents, resistant to temperature extremes, and also to dust and dirt. The transmitter, we put it in a unit that looked like that, but it could look like anything. It just transmits a sound wave and then picks it up again. We could make that for about $100 US. You could read tags travelling at about 150 k per hour. They could be in a plastic bag all jumbled up, and you'd still have very low error rates. So you could read them in close proximity. They didn't have to be aligned. You could read them through non-conductive materials. If it was through metal, you couldn't read it. You could read it through non-conductive materials. Yeah, so that's the product. And he had a product. His problem was, he said, I've got to convince a factory up in Taiwan or in Malaysia to stop making silicon chips and start making lithium niobate chips, which is this piezoelectric material. And the real problem is, if you go and ask a silicon chip manufacturer, and the PC market was on the downturn, so there was supply available. If they convert their clean rooms and build one lithium niobate chip in that clean room, the clean room's wiped out. So you poison the whole factory. You can never make another silicon chip in that factory. So you had to have a very strong value proposition on how this thing would solve a problem to guarantee those clean rooms or those factories up in Malaysia that they're going to have a volume supply agreements. So we had the problem we had was we had to come up with a strong value proposition, and a student team worked on this with me. Where would these tags be used? What's the value proposition? What problem can we solve? Sorry? E-tag. Now, E-tags. Is the industry standard set for E-tags? Is it or not?
Yes.
We've all got E-tags. It's pretty well set, so we stayed away from E-tags. But we had a real competitive advantage. What's the competitive advantage over E-tags? Who said that? Who said that? Yeah. Does your E-tag have a battery in it? Yes. Absolutely. Eventually, it's not going to flip anymore. What you've got to do is go into the RTA and swap it, and that will be a new battery. Yeah. This one's passive, so we would have had a competitive advantage over that. Okay. Any other value propositions here? Shoplifting. That was quite possible, but they're still using those sensormatic devices, aren't they? What Walmart have done is RFID tagged everything now, so that's another value proposition. What other things? That's a good one.
Automated shopping, for example, you walk your trolley out of a shopping centre and it can automatically scan what's in there and bill you.
That would be brilliant. So you don't even have to unload the basket, you just walk straight through and it would bill you. Brilliant, brilliant application. In fact, we did think about that, but in order to get Coles or Woolies or IGA to try it, it was going to be quite... they weren't as innovative as some other markets, but brilliant idea. Anything else? Credit cards, I like the contactless credit card thing. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah, another application. It's getting late, so I'll show you the 3 applications we came up with. We put the tag into a plastic thing called a bolus. How do you tag cattle now? With the ear. I don't know if you know it, but in Argentina and the US and also Australia, we've got a problem with cattle rustling. How do cattle rustlers rebrand or remark their cattle now if they dig them? They just cut the tag off the ear, don't they? Yeah. How would, if you got this tag into a bolus and got a little air gun, put it down the throat of the cow and shot it into the stomach or the rumen, the cow's actually got 4 stomachs and it just lodges there and stays there. It's inert. In effect, what you're doing is barcoding your cow. So what does a rustler have to do to re-tag the cow now? Slaughter the animal. Yeah. So it helps with theft of cattle. And all you have to do is be within 6 metres of the... If you had a cattle train in the Northern Territory running down at 100 kilometres per hour and it's within 6 metres of an antenna, we could read what's on that train, so it will stop rustling. Also, the tag was cheap enough to get into the sheep and the pig market too, which is a very large market. What else was going on back in those days, around the 2000 mark? Olympics? No? What? Cattle. Mad cow, absolutely. CJD. So not only does it stop cattle rustling, but it improves your breeding management program, and you can identify where you've got problems. So that was another market that we thought was quite good. The next market that we looked at was the airline market. What we thought about doing is putting a tag on the boarding pass and a tag on the luggage tag. Why? Sorry?
In case people take other people's
But
luggage.
it does it now. Back in those days it didn't. Yeah? Why does Qantas do it now? Put a tag on the boarding pass and then a tag on the luggage tag. Sorry? People can't take other people's luggage. That's one reason. What else? So they know where to send it, because if the package gets lost, it doesn't wave and say hi. So yeah, absolutely. Tracking. What else? Sorry?
Can't pretend it's not yours.
Can't pretend it's not yours. There's another reason. Yeah? Anything else? If you don't make it to the flight but your luggage is on, does the plane take off? Why? Terrorists, yeah. So you can quickly get into the belly of the plane if you've got your transceiver, find that piece of luggage very quickly, can't you, and get it off, yeah? But why the boarding pass? Why bother tracking the passenger? So you can find them. Haven't you been at an airport and you keep hearing people's names being I've often heard my name being called. Yeah? Where are you at an airport if your name's being called? Come to the gate. What? You are where? Who said shit-faced? Yeah? Usually you are on the toilet asleep because you've been in the frequent flyer lounge a bit too long and you're on about your 5th bourbon and Coke or whatever, and at least that's where I am. What you do is you put your transceiver antennas in the ceilings of the frequent flyer lounge, at least tracking the person going in. If they haven't come out, you can find them very quickly and find them through the airport. So I guess the value proposition is airport security and also on-time departure. The last one we did was this. Put the transceivers or the antennas just above the ceilings in the elevators of businesses or near the front door. What are we doing there? Asset tracking. So if people nick things, you can pick it up, it'll set off the security alarm. Also, you can sew it into the chairs or put the tag in underneath there, and you do a quick fix asset register. Have a good week.